Hello, everyone. My name is Mirna, and on behalf of the Mindalia TV team, welcome to Mindalia live streaming, where thousands of people around the world gather daily to see the lectures and interviews organized by Mindalia TV. Today, with us, Angel Ribo, CEO, consultant, TV host, international public speaker, and president of the Wisdom for Kids Foundation, is being joined in hosting this show with Stan Sorensen. Stan is the president and founder of the Healing Exchange Center. Before starting with them and with our very special guest, we want to remind you that Mandala's mission is to share information that can help raise the level of consciousness around the world. And you can help us by subscribing to our channel, leaving us a positive comment down this video, or sharing it with someone that you know that is going to benefit of the content that we're going to be talking here today. Also, while we are live streaming, we have the active chat, the screen you're going to be seeing here on my side. We invite you to participate. We also want you to participate and collaborate with Mindalia with your own valuable content. And for that, you can go to our website. On the top, you're going to find a link that says Collaborate with Mindalia. That link is going to take you to a form that you can fill out, and our technical team will be getting in contact with you. Remember that you can collaborate with Mindalia in English through Mindalia TV English, Portuguese through Mindalia Televisao, and Spanish, Mindalia Televisión. Visit our different channels, our different platforms, follow our Facebook pages and Instagram's account. That is a way for you to help us reach as much people as possible in the planet, and also to be informed of what we're going to be sharing on a daily basis. We're not going to delay this any further. I'm going to leave you with Angel, with Stan, and our very special guest, the founder of the Catalyst Foundation, Dave Mashore. Guys, welcome to Mindalia live streaming. The screen is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mirna, for this wonderful introduction, and welcome back, Stan. How are you? How are you today?
Well, I'm good. I got a little
Hold on. We can't hear you.
technology again this morning, but
Oh, okay. Here you are.
we're all connected again.
Exactly. We are all connected again. Welcome back. I was saying, and we couldn't hear you in the beginning. So, oh my God, I can see you really prepared today. What's going on, Stan?
Oh, well, I did a little bit of research about 20 minutes ago or so, and I discovered something I didn't know about Dave, and that he has a Facebook account. And there was an interesting little introduction on his website, on his account site. And I wanted to share that. Dave gave me permission. And I thought it'd be a great springboard back into part 2 here of our conversation with Dave. Okay,
why don't we do something then? Because it looks like these two gentlemen have just met, but it's not true, okay? So that the audience knows that these two gentlemen are friends, and they have been friends for a long time. Yes. Second, why don't you briefly introduce him, and we bring him to the conversation, and then you can say all the good and bad things you want about him. So welcome back, Dave. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Want to say a few words before you read the statement?
Yes. Yes. Well, for those of you who are just tuning in for the first time, Dave Mashore and I go back about 10 years or so. I'm not even sure how to count it back. He is the current CEO of the Catalyst Foundation, which is an organization that invited me to create a healing center back in 2009, and that was probably due to conversations that I had with Dave back in those days, where we shared a lot of resonance, I believe, in what it takes for the creation of a healing society, as well as for our personal involvement. So this morning, I'm not friends with Dave on Facebook, and
we can fix that, Stan. We can fix that.
Way to fix that. You ask, shall be given. This morning, I went and looked up Dave on Facebook, and there he was. And so I clicked on there, and I saw this introduction to Dave, and I wanted to share it. And because I think it kind of it says a lot about Dave. And so what it doesn't say about Dave is going to fill in after I read this, right?
Well, I'll do my best. I'll do my best.
So
I actually don't know what you're going to read either, so I'm a little bit on the edge of my seat.
okay, without any further delay, here we go. The rain comes and all things are replenished. Never forget the replenishing nature of a smile, a compliment, or a courtesy to another. We have the power to build up or break down. Nature teaches us there is no destruction, only transition. Love is the pure essence of building up. We must love all people, all beings, all life. This kind of love is the embodiment of all that is good. It is infinite and it is alive. Wow.
Awesome.
What do you have to say to that, Dave?
I'm moved. I remember writing that, and it's really at the core of how I feel, you know, and I'm moved by that. No, it's my experience that love is the most powerful thing on this planet and in this universe. And it's interesting because in contemplating this conversation and what we might talk about, and Angel, you spoke to this earlier, but things happen for a reason. You know, I had some ideas and I was going to print some things out and have something to refer to. And then I was at the office and helping to be supportive there and you know, solving all the world's problems, so to speak. He says tongue in cheek, but and drove away and didn't bring those. And so you know, my choice in driving here was to rush back and possibly rush here and be rushed, or to be present and to consider you know, what might be and what I would really want to talk about, really in a very present tense sense. And Angel and I, we talked about this earlier, you know, just being authentic, and so I decided to be present and to be a conduit, how, you know, in for whatever will flow, but certainly love is what came to me as one of the really the most important things that we could talk about. So so thanks for leading in with that quote.
Well, you're welcome. I just was struck by the circumstance that you were in, where you had to make a choice to either get caught up and get stressed over possibly, you know, having to do it right and all that kind of stuff. And then you made a choice and said, you know, I'm going to go with being present. I'm going to go with being a little more relaxed and just let the universe lead the flow, so to speak. And I'm curious, how can we shift? How, you know, when we get caught up in day-to-day stuff, and we get pulled back into our unconscious responses to things. How do we make a shift to get into that flow?
Yeah, so so we move towards whatever's important to us, right? And so so it's you know, there are longer answers and there are shorter answers, but I would say this, it's you know, there's a story of the two wolves, which probably a lot of people have heard. And you know, ultimately, it's, you know, all of us, and Paramahansa Yogananda said that there are always two forces warring against each other within us. And in one sense, it's not in one sense, I mean, just being human, it's so real and so true, whether it's just all the demands and the things of the world, whether it's our senses and being taken by that and caught up with our mind, you know, our intellect, and letting that be the operating force of our lives, or what have you. And it kind of, it gets back to what we feed, doesn't it? I mean, if I have a practice I have experience where I connect in a deeper way, where maybe I am willing to die to self and to offer myself in a greater way to something in figuratively speaking, maybe larger than or definitely larger than my persona, my masks, my ego, however it would be described. If I have a practice, if I have experience in a deeper way, then when those decisions come, I can be informed by those deeper experiences. So it does kind of come back to what I practice and how I spend my time and what my priorities are. And then let's face it, it's a day-to-day experience. When I leave here and I'm driving to work and somebody cuts me off and flips me off or whatever they do, how am I with that? Do I realize that maybe that's not about me? Or do I sort of buy into it because I have that within me at such a high level that I just can't help but attach to that? So it's what we practice, Dan. I really believe that.
So when we're triggered into something that is brings up into us something other than love and kindness and peace and joy, but one of those lower vibrations of anger or fear, it's always been my own personal thought that those being triggered into those emotions of anger and fear and sadness are just messages that say, hey, Stan, wake up. You've got something to attend to. And because if it's not joy, if it's not love, if it's not one of those higher emotions, it's something that's pulling me off center, getting me out of alignment. So it's always been my search, how to get in alignment. Especially those moments.
Right.
When we're pulled off. How do you get back? And
Well,
I'm hammering on you, Dave. I want to.
Yeah. So part of what you know about me, Stan, is that one of the important parts of the work that I do has to do with healing from childhood trauma and difficult life situations. And so in working with maximum security prisoners, it's level 4 prison. It's one level below death row. These are guys that have had, serious challenges and have done real harm to others and themselves. And working with homeless and people in really, really desperate situations. How can we be a healing force? Because the core of what you said is the same for all of us as human beings, right? There's always opportunity to move into something deeper. There's always opportunity to react to what's happening inside of us and what's happening outside of us. And so ultimately, if I have, if I'm angry inside, or if I'm frustrated, or if I'm anxious about something, then I show up in every situation with that feeding me, along with whatever else is happening in those situations. And so it can be very, very, very easy to be triggered or to respond in a less than healthy way if I show up with those things. So ultimately, it's about inner work and how we show up. I say inner work because freedom comes from discipline. And if I have a discipline, if I have a practice, then I'm likely to respond in certain ways. I can develop a platform in which I'm able to react or deal with situations in ways where I'm conscious of what's happening, where I have choice. And conversely, if I am continually reacting to what other people are doing or what somebody is saying or what's happening inside of me because I haven't resolved things from my past, then I'm really not living my life fully. I'm taken by other people, other situations, and unresolved things inside of me. I don't know if that makes sense or not.
Well, what I'm tracking here, Dave, is that you're talking about your own personal work of preparing yourself to meet those events or those experiences that are challenging and that do trigger out and do pull out maybe from our unconscious unloving emotions.
Yes.
And the discipline that you're talking about, which I'm very curious about, is how do you deal with those events? Because those, everybody gets them, and I'm always looking for a better way to get out of them, or at least to manage them in the here and now, in our authentic self.
Yeah.
In such a way that we can get back to sharing love versus sharing anxiety or fear or anger or something. And I'm curious about your platform, or the discipline that builds that platform upon which we can effectively stay on our higher path.
Okay. Yeah. So, boy,
what is the magic there?
Well, it's a really juicy subject to me. You know, it really is.
I like juicy subjects.
So I think that if we look at our humanity, we can talk about all aspects of our presence here as human beings. And so I grew up in a home where there's a lot of violence. There was a lot of violence against my mom. My house was chaotic. It was, trauma, filled environment. And yes.
And so that means, in your frame of reference,
yeah,
you probably have a lot of unconscious memories, or those implicit memories, we call them, that are just waiting.
Right. So they used to be unconscious, right? But early on, at some point, I realized, and I would like to give an example, just one short example. And so this is called traumatic reenactment. And people may know about this, but I'm surprised at the number of folks that don't. And so if I grow up in a home like I just described, and every day I don't know if we have enough food to eat, I don't know if we're going to be moving again because we don't have enough money to pay the bills. I don't know if my physical safety is okay because there's somebody last night that was in my mom's bedroom beating her up, and my two brothers and I had to grab knives out of the kitchen, baseball bats, and break in and tell this man, and maybe I was 9 years old, to get out of our house, and so all of these things happen. And then I wake up in the morning, or I don't sleep all night because I'm anxious and insecure and so on. Now, when I walk out the door the next day, I have all kinds of things happening inside of me. So, for example, one day I go out, and as a youngster, as a youth, I go out and I tear a bunch of stuff up that particular day, breaking street lights, tearing, honestly, buildings down and different things like this. And if somebody would have asked me, why are you doing this, Dave? At that time, at 15 years old or 14 years old, I probably would have said something like, I don't know, or I don't know, it's just something to do. And I would not have been aware of why I was doing what I was doing. Looking back, obviously, I see that it's because of the nature of how I was showing up in these situations. I was filled with anxiety. I was filled with frustration. I was filled with anger. And the way we're built as human beings, we store these things. And we walk around, it's just like a battery on a car. We store them, and it's going to get out. So as a youngster, I did not have healthy ways. I wasn't aware of healthy ways. I didn't have healthy mentors. I didn't have people around me showing me, hey, when you have difficulties in life, here are some ways of dealing with this trauma, difficult situations, stress, in ways that have healthy side effects. So I devised my own ways of using drugs and engaging in fighting and aggression and tearing things apart, because I was venting out the pain through the symbolic language of my behavior. I was venting out the pain of those experiences. And so I know now why I did those things and why I have engaged in destructive, self-destructive, or antisocial behavior. And I know now, and I've fortunately known for some years and survived those days, I know now how to process or deal with those things so that I can release that energy in ways that cause greater health to me and greater health to people around me and to society as a whole.
That's exactly what I'm looking for, is how to do that.
Okay.
We're all for how-tos.
Yes.
You
Yes.
shared a little bit with us last week about some of the how-to of your path.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm really wanting to hone in on how anybody, not just
Mm-hmm.
you and I, who climbed mountains and done meditations and done all, but how can we, as just a normal person, maybe an uneducated, uninformed person, get involved in learning how to do that?
Well, it takes a certain kind of bravery, doesn't it? Because, right?
Yes. The willingness to step into the unknown and maybe step into looking at things differently than how we were raised and how we were trained.
Right. And that, I think, in the most practical way, means doing something different. It's doing something that we haven't done before that has the potential of creating good, creating wholeness, or helping us to have greater insight. And so, I realized, like, last week I talked in a pretty broad way. I talked about inner work. I mentioned some things as far as myself, as it relates to meditation, and I think I mentioned martial arts. And so I've done certain things. And I think that, just to pull back just a little bit, we tend, all of us, to stay in our comfort zone, to stay in a place that is common, normal, and comfortable to us, whatever that is. And we can create, that's something that can become a life path and can become a habit and can become a style in which we don't risk in ways that have the potential to create, the ability for us to have a more whole life, to wake up in the morning happier, more content, and more peaceful, and to be able to deal with the kinds of situations that you were referring to, that life, comes at us, that comes to us every day, just walking through this world as adults. And so, I will talk about some specific things, but in a broader way, I would say this: be willing to risk. And be willing to, and to step into something different. It doesn't have to be, okay, I'm going to be a meditator and I'm going to spend an hour and a half every morning sitting in a full lotus position on a tiger skin, isolated in the local cave that I can find. It can be to say, you know what, I really don't know what meditation is, if we use meditation as an example, but I'm going to try it, and I'm going to do it for 3 minutes in the mornings every day. And I'm going to commit to this 3 minutes, and I'm going to do it for 2 weeks. And if that is what's comfortable for an individual, then that is a beautiful way to start, because I think, to form the habit of success, of winning, of being able to move forward, is, for some, until we've developed that can be a new habit. And so I don't care if it's 1 minute, and I don't care if it's 1 week, 1 minute a day, in the mornings, the same time every day. I'm gonna set this aside, or in the evenings, and I'm gonna go to a different space, and I'm gonna sit in the same spot at the same time each day, and I'm going to attempt to meditate, whatever that means, for 3 minutes or 5 minutes for 2 minutes, whatever that is. And if I forget, then I'm just going to come back that evening or the next day, and that's what I'm going to do. Or to begin to study something, to read a book that you would not have read before, or to watch videos of people that have teachings that we feel close to. And so I think it's really easy. And, for me, so I've had a spiritual practice, and so that has been important to me. For some people, they might say, you know what, spirituality is not my thing, but I'm Catholic, or I'm Protestant, or I'm Buddhist, or I come from a background, I don't know why, I just feel like I feel like I kind of connect in this area. Pursue that thing. The beautiful thing about God or the Creator is that God is everywhere at all times in everything. And so it really is about us getting out of the way and becoming listeners. And so I talk about meditation a lot because for me, meditation is the art of listening. Prayer is a beautiful thing. I generally see prayer as talking to God, and I see meditation as listening for the answers, listening to God. And so, but you know what? If I'm, and so that's a spiritual view of things, and that's kind of but if I'm so anxious, or I'm so angry, or I'm so frustrated because of things in my past, I may not be able to step into places of sitting still and being quiet inside because I'm kind of dogged by those things from my past. And so there's a great quote by Robert Frost that says the only way out
the
is
best way
through.
out is always through.
Yeah, and we must go through these things. We cannot ignore our life experiences and expect them to go away or be resolved. It's as if I have anger towards somebody from a long time ago or more recently, or I have frustration, it's as if there's something right here circling just in the corner of my eyesight. And you're trying to talk to me about meditation, or you're trying to talk to me, or you're wanting me to understand something in a deeper way. And there's always something here just kind of taking my attention and distracting me. And I can't quite go to where you need me to go, or understand what you want me to see, or become fully peaceful inside, because it's as if there's something continually there. And until I deal with this and I'm able to resolve it, then whatever I try to move forward in, I can't be fully present. I can't be fully complete. And so, there are lots of techniques for dealing with this thing, and we can talk about a lot of different options. But just that basic concept that we must come to terms and become whole and gain the lesson out of the difficulties in our life. There's so much richness there. There's so much richness there. In fact, the things that can bring the greatest richness to our lives are oftentimes the things that society would say, or that we would say, are the worst things that ever happened to us. I work with guys that have been molested, beat up every day of their life, abused in untold ways. And some of these guys have become the most beautiful men that you could ever know. Whole, healthy, very empathetic and caring towards others, and willing to give their life in service for God and for others. And that doesn't happen on accident. You don't just show up and go, I'm healed.
Let me ask you something. Excuse me, Stan. Yeah, thank you. I would like to ask you something, because that statement that you made, saying, freedom comes from discipline, is a very strong statement. It's very strong, and freedom means many different things to many different people. And you mentioned different categories of people that have gone through challenges and that you deal with every single day. Probably, if you ask every one of them, what does freedom mean to them? Obviously, the answer is different.
Yes.
So I would like to ask you a question, because people might be in pain, or people might be in financial, problems, or lots of different things. People that watch us, they're looking for answers and they want to have some help. What would you say? Could you define a little bit, how can we find our own discipline to reach that, wonderful freedom to do whatever we want when we get up in the morning?
Yeah. So, it's a practice, Angel, and I don't want to minimize that. Okay? I like to give a couple of examples, and then recognize that for us, we can really be in a place of feeling like there is no hope, that there really isn't an answer, that we are boxed into situations where we feel completely helpless and unable to do anything about it. And I have spent, I've spent a lot of time there. I've been in that place, and so it's a really meaningful thing, because yes, whether it has to do with somebody who's sick now and possibly terminal, or in other situations where they're in pain, or where they're not able to function fully, or whether it's a financial situation where a person just cannot figure out how to get out from under the difficulties that they have going on. I'm going to make a bold statement now, Angel, and I don't know if this is too strong, but answers for these things, they are available to us. They truly are available to us. And having been in that place, I know this, and I know I said this earlier. Sometimes it really does mean us getting out of our own way. We sometimes, for example, tend to think that the answer to our problems is going to come through our own intellectual exercise, or deductive reasoning, or logic, or just using our brain to figure things out. And sometimes the brain is the perfect tool for resolving issues. Sometimes it is really the right tool. And sometimes, no matter what you do, through deductive reasoning and logic and study and all these things, we may not be able to find the answer. That's one tool. That's one aspect of our humanity. There are many aspects of our humanity, and so we must use all of our tools. So in developing ourselves spiritually, mentally, emotionally, in a way that helps us to grow and to be able to have a larger toolbox. And so so that we have and are able to use the correct tool to resolve the issue. I may have a financial issue, or I may have a physical health issue, and the answer may not come. So from a financial standpoint, it may not come from figuring out from a numerical standpoint how to manage things. That may not be the answer. It may be my approach to what's important to me in life that can rearrange that perspective, so that I see that, it's a different way out of this situation. It's a different way out. Maybe I thought that I was going to be whole as a person and be able to have security and safety in my life if I resolve it by financial means. We might discover that ultimately, the answer isn't a financial one. Yes, I need to do all I can financially, but maybe I'm never going to be whole and healthy and content and have a good life every single day while I'm alive, unless I'm able to be present and be whole and have maybe a deeper inner life when it comes to from a spiritual, emotional, and psychological standpoint. So, it's funny when I say freedom comes from discipline. So I don't know the vastness and the makeup of the viewers, but maybe a lot of people know who Magic Johnson was, the basketball player that played for the Los Angeles Lakers and considered, one of the greatest point guards in history. And he was unusual in that he was particularly tall. He was about 6'9". But what he was known for is his ability to pass, the no-look pass. And he could dribble down the court with, all 10 players going down court, and each of his teammates running full speed, each of them being guarded by somebody else, dribbling the basketball, running at full speed, dribbling the basketball. And the whole time he's looking around and he's seeing the expressions on the faces of the defenders, of his players, and he'll look over here and he'll go like that and throw the ball over there. Because this defender looked away for a split second and his player was open, takes the ball. And so he was free to, and his nickname was Magic, right? Earvin Magic Johnson, because the things that he did at times were so extraordinary, you just think, that's impossible. There's no way that somebody, how did he know that this person was going to be there and they were going to be open and so on? And the reason is that he had disciplined himself in dribbling that basketball so effectively for thousands and thousands, probably millions and millions of times, to the point where he didn't have to look at the basketball when he was dribbling it. He could run down court full speed and be fully present with what was happening because the mundane things were taking care of themselves, because the discipline that he practiced gave him the freedom to survey the court and to be fully present in a bigger way. And so I have other examples of that, but that's a simple example. It really is about discipline and what we practice. And so when it comes to us solving problems in our life and feeling like we have a good life, and then we're able to deal with the stressors in life, we're able to have equanimity with our emotions and not be taken by past things or current things. It really is about what practices we're engaging in. And it's not the easy way. We don't like to hear that because it means that I have to do something. I have to step into a direction that maybe I haven't before. So I don't know if the basketball dribbling analogy helps any, but that's one example.
You've been stimulating a lot of thoughts in my mind as you've been telling these stories, and Angel's been asking questions that take us to different perspectives. And I'm still going to harp on how do we help other people recognize that it's a good thing to do something not normally comfortable, like to stretch ourselves, to go beyond our boundaries, our limits. And and you reminded me of I had dinner with a man and his wife last night in Manhattan Beach. His name is Sam, and Sam's an airline pilot, and he flies all over the place. He's from Brazil originally, and now he lives in this country. He lives in Texas somewhere. But we were having dinner, and he was telling me his story. And he's just a regular guy. And he was telling me about some anger he had inside of him and some difficulties he was having in his life. And then he said his wife was getting these kind of like acupressure treatments, like not acupuncture, but more like the pressure ones.
Mm-hmm.
And she just suggested, why don't you try it out? So he goes over to see this guy. He happens to be a Japanese American person, but his practice of doing the acupuncture or acupressure was just the tip of the surface of what this guy had to offer. And you mentioned martial arts. Well, this guy had this anger in him, and he was thinking, well, martial arts is a good way to really get that anger out. And the guy had told him that he was a martial arts teacher and that he does this, and he doesn't talk about it, but he Sam's story was that he got interested in the martial arts aspect, and so he asked the guy, well, what about this martial arts stuff? Maybe that could help me. And I said, sure, come on down and we'll talk about it. Well, what he found out was that martial arts wasn't all about, bam, bam, smack the guys and use your energy and taekwondo and all these weird ways. But there was a philosophy behind it. But he wasn't attracted to the philosophy. He was attracted to get this energy out of me, this anger, and yet along the way, he found out there was much more to martial arts than breaking up blocks of, cement blocks or breaking boards. So Sam's story was so interesting to me. And he started doing the martial arts. He started being different because as a result. And then people started noticing a difference in Sam. And they said, Sam, what's happening with you? You're not like you used to be. And he says, well, I started doing this martial arts stuff. He didn't say I started doing this philosophical introspection and discovering the two wolves inside of me that are combating. He didn't go there. He just said, well, I went to this guy that does this martial arts stuff, and he attracted the attention of another man that he worked with who was also struggling with a lot of anger issues. And he was drinking and he was doing all this horrible stuff. Well, then Sam asked me the question. He said, Stan, I know that you changed in your life, and what caused you to want to change? And that took me way back to when I lived in Japan and I first got involved with the human potential movement people. But his question to me, I think, is very important, that we all will find our own answer to that question. What's going to cause us, or what's going to motivate us to change? I think values, you mentioned values. If we focus on our values and we see something that will promote our values, then we might be willing to go there and do something different, something a little uncomfortable.
Excuse me, I hate to interrupt you, Stan, but
I know. We could talk forever on this stuff.
We have to wrap it up. I wanted to say, obviously, thank you very much to Dave for being with us again today. I love the perspective. I think perspective is a strong word, and I think perspective helps us a lot. And you, Stan, you were talking about perspectives again. I think compassion on someone else's perspectives is a good point to start when we're interacting with people. And I really love to share some time with you again, Dave. I would like definitely to ask you any final comment, and obviously, where can we find you online? Everybody that would like to contact with you or with your foundation.
Yeah, thank you, Angel. It's really a privilege to be here, and I'm thankful for the opportunity to hopefully be a positive influence in other people's lives. I know that's why I'm here on this planet. And so anytime that those opportunities arise, it's a privilege, and I'm thankful. So yeah, I think if people are interested in the Catalyst Foundation, they can go to our website is www.catalystfdn.org. And we're here in Lancaster. We can be looked up easily through social media and so on. And thank you. It's a privilege. I have great respect for Mindalia TV. What a beautiful work that you do. And thank you, Stan. And Angel, you're clearly a lovely soul. It's really great to talk with you. Stan, great to see you in a sort of odd and kind of a different format here. And And
Thank
I
you.
appreciate all that you do.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Dave. I'm just going to jump in and close out myself with this conversation by saying that I see you as an example. And when I see you, Dave, I am curious and I want to know more. You know, I'm probably doing what I'm doing partly as seeing something in you, Dave, more than 10 years ago when we had conversations and you talked about stuff. I didn't know what the heck you were talking about sometimes.
Well,
there was something there that led me to be curious and want to know more. And
thank you, Stan.
I'm glad to have gotten to know you better and continue to get to know you better. And
All right.
Our conversations with people inspire us to be better people.
Absolutely. Stan, where can we find you? Excuse me. Stan, how can people reach out to you?
Oh, well, I have a website now. It's called, it's titled www.healingexchangecenter.com. And it will be having some interviews from Mindalia posted on there eventually. There's one there now with me. And the other, of course, is my email, scratch022@yahoo.com. And those are two good ways. And Dave, you can find Dave too at Dave Mashore on Facebook.
Okay.
And you can get that whole statement that he made.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you very much, both of you, for being with us today and for sharing so much. And as you said, Stan, we could be with Dave for days probably. And I would love to know every single one of these particular cases that he has had with people that have been suffering so much, because I'm on the same mission, or we are on Mindalia, helping as many people as possible, helping as many people as possible from all over the world. So thank you so much. Again, this is Angel Rebo with Mindalia TV. Thank you very much for being with us today. It's been a pleasure to be with you. Thank you for allowing us to bring you Dave and Stan. I hope you have enjoyed our conversation as much as we have. Have a wonderful day and see you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.